Nobody ever ran a sewer line out this far, so if you want to build a hotel on this stretch of desert highway in 1941, you drill your own well, and whatever goes down the drain sits in a tank buried out back on your own land. Septic fields need room, so you spread the building out flat instead of stacking it up. That is why the Las Vegas Strip looks the way it does, and it has nothing to do with taste. What follows is weirder than that. There is a construction budget that the mob did not blow. There is a tower that could not be imploded, and there is a lake on the hottest boulevard in America that is not connected to any water main. None of it makes sense until you look at what the engineers actually signed off on. I pulled the auction records, the county filings, the demolition contracts, and the structural engineers' reports, and used advanced AI to reconstruct Las Vegas's development layer by layer. Picture the Mojave in summer. A steam locomotive needs roughly 5,000 gallons of water every 100 miles, and there is nothing between Los Angeles and Salt Lake City that will reliably provide it. That is the problem that created Las Vegas. The name is Spanish, and it means the meadows. That should tell you something. Water came up out of the ground here under its own pressure, from an artesian basin sitting below the desert floor. No pump needed. The place looked like a meadow in the middle of the Mojave, because it was one. In 1902, Senator William Clark bought the 800-acre Stewart Ranch along with its water rights for $55,000. Not because he wanted a town, but because his locomotives were thirsty. He finished the railroad in January 1905 and immediately turned part of the ranch into a grid of 40 blocks. The logic was brutal. Survey the streets, number the lots, sell them. On May 15, 1905, in 110-degree heat under a canvas tent, the railroad auctioned roughly 1,200 lots. Fremont Street corners went first. 176 lots sold that first day for $79,566. And some winners started construction the same evening, dragging lumber and canvas across the tracks from a rival town site to the west that had no water rights and was about to lose the fight because of it. The founding document of Las Vegas is a land deed written by a railroad, with a water company as a subsidiary. Whoever owned the wells owned the town. What the town did not yet have was electricity worth mentioning, and that problem was about to be solved 30 miles away by the largest concrete pour anyone had ever attempted. Hoover Dam is where Las Vegas got its electricity, its paved road, and its first real construction workforce. It is also the best pure building problem in the American West. Here is the thing any concrete worker will tell you. Curing concrete gives off heat, and heat makes it expand, and when it finally cools, it shrinks and cracks. On a sidewalk, that does not matter. On 3.25 million cubic yards of concrete, it matters enormously. Engineers ran the math and found that if they poured the dam as one solid mass, the middle would still be cooling 125 years later, and the finished dam would be a spider web of fractures. That figure's the one I keep going back to. The dam topped out in 1936, so a solid pour would still be cheering right now, today, while you watch this. So they did not pour a dam. They poured a stack of boxes. Interlocking columns of blocks, each one a manageable pour, and threaded through every block roughly 582 miles of 1-inch steel pipe, carrying chilled water from a refrigeration plant on site. Cool each block artificially, then pump grout into the joints between them to fuse the whole stack into one body. Meanwhile, the road out to the site got paved, transmission lines got strung, and a town of 5,000 people suddenly had power, water rights, and thousands of workers with paychecks and nothing to spend them on. The moment the dam finished, someone worked out that the smartest place to build a hotel was nowhere near the city. California hotel operator Thomas Hull bought 57 acres on Highway 91 for about $57,000, roughly 2 miles south of downtown. Everyone told him it was insane. It was not insane, it was jurisdictional. That land sat just outside the Las Vegas city limits, which meant no city taxes, no city fees, and no city inspectors. It also meant no city services, and that is where the architecture comes from. Architect Wayne McAllister could not connect to a municipal system that stopped a mile back up the road so the El Rancho Vegas ran on its own well and its own septic field. Septic fields need land. Land was cheap. So instead of stacking rooms, he scattered 65 of them across the property in single-story bungalows around a pool, with the parking lot pushed to the front as the buildings face. That is the birth of the Strip's entire geometry. Low buildings, huge lots, cars parked at the door, and a 50-foot neon windmill on a pole because the customer is reading your building at 45 miles an hour through a windshield. It opened April 3rd, 1941, and it worked. Which brings us to the man everyone credits with inventing all of this, who arrived 5 years late and immediately ran into a wall of federal paperwork. Correct the record first. Bugsy Siegel did not invent the Las Vegas Strip and did not start the Flamingo. Billy Wilkerson, a Hollywood nightclub owner, bought the 33-acre parcel in 1945, hired George Vernon Russell to design it, and started building. Siegel came in as money and then pushed him out. Now the actual problem. And it is not the one anyone tells you about. Construction was underway by March 1946, and that same month, the Civilian Production Administration issued a freeze order banning new construction without approval because the country was hoarding materials for veteran housing. Siegel argued the job had already started and got to keep going. But the freeze did not create steel, copper, or pipe out of nothing. The most feared man in Las Vegas got beaten by plumbing supply. Every fixture, every length of pipe, every stick of framing lumber had to be bought at black market prices. And the contractor's story is that material delivered by day was stolen at night and sold back to the site in the morning at a markup. A build estimated at $1.2 million finished somewhere around $6 million. Contractor Del Webb was owed $3.6 million of it. The result was a hotel that could not open as a hotel. The casino opened December 26, 1946, with the rooms unfinished. The three-story hotel block did not open until March 1, 1947. And while the Strip fumbled with concrete, downtown was building something with almost no structure at all. Fremont Street solved the same problem the Strip had, which is how to be seen, and it solved it with glass tubing and high voltage. Neon is a handmade product. A craftsman heats soft glass tube over a ribbon burner, bends it by hand against a paper pattern, blows into it through a rubber hose to keep the bend from collapsing, seals an electrode into each end, vacuums the air out, then backfills it with gas. Neon burns red and orange. Argon with a drop of mercury burns blue. Every other color is a coating inside the glass. Then you hang it off a transformer pushing 12,000 volts or more. The Young Electric Sign Company got so busy on Fremont Street, it started manufacturing its own tubing rather than waiting on suppliers. In 1951, it built Vegas Vic for the Pioneer Club, a 40-foot cowboy weighing around 6 tons and costing about $28,000, fabricated in a Salt Lake City shop, trucked to Nevada, and bolted to a roof. His arm waved on a mechanical linkage for roughly 50 years. Think about what a sign that size actually is. It is a steel structure with a wind load cantilevered off a building that was never designed to carry it, and by 1956 the Golden Nugget skipped the middleman and wrapped its entire facade in sign. The building had become the advertisement. 40 years later, Las Vegas would work out that demolishing a building could be an advertisement too. October 27, 1993. Steve Wynn had bought the failing dunes and its 164 acres, and rather than quietly demolish it, he sold tickets to the idea. Roughly 200,000 people watched. It cost about $2 million. An implosion is not an explosion. You are not blasting a building apart. You are surgically removing its ability to stand and letting gravity finish the job. Crews spend weeks gutting the interior, stripping non-structural walls so debris has room to fall inward, pre-cutting steel, and drilling charge holes into specific columns on specific floors. The blast sequence is timed in milliseconds so the structure folds inward instead of toppling sideways onto the boulevard. Controlled Demolition Inc. and its president, Mark Loiseau, used about 650 pounds of dynamite on the dunes, and then did something no engineer would normally do. They mixed in black rifle powder and 600 gallons of aviation fuel purely for the flash, and ran the detonation cord to stretch a 10-second collapse out to nearly 30 seconds, because 10 seconds is not enough television. What gets me is the inversion. Everywhere else on Earth, demolition is the ugly part you hide behind a fence. In Las Vegas, it was the marketing campaign for the building that had not been built yet. And what went up on that rubble needed something the desert really should not be able to hold. And what went up on that rubble needed something the desert really should not be able to hold. The Bellagio replaced the dunes with an 8.5-acre lake holding 22 million gallons of water on the hottest boulevard in America. The construction is more mundane and more clever than it looks. Crews excavated the basin, laid a rubber liner across the bottom, then poured concrete over the liner to protect it and to give the hardware something to bolt to. Depth is not uniform, and that is deliberate. It runs about 3.5 feet along Las Vegas Boulevard, where the public leans on the rail, and drops to 10 to 12 feet in the middle, because the big shooters need water depth to sit in. Under the surface, Wet Design installed nearly 5 miles of pipe and 1,214 nozzles. 208 of them are oarsmen, motorized swiveling jets that push 140 gallons a minute and are the only devices that can aim. Then 798 mini shooters, 192 super shooters, and 16 extreme shooters that fire straight up as high as 460 feet. The shooters are not pumps at all. They are compressed air cannons, which is why the water leaves like a gunshot instead of a hose. 4,792 submerged lights do the rest, roughly $40 million. I went looking for the water bill on this thing, expecting the scandal everyone assumes is there. That lake is not drinking water. It is fed by a private well drilled decades earlier to irrigate the Dunes golf course. The most wasteful-looking object in Nevada is running on the golf course it replaced. And it is running on private groundwater, because the artesian basin that founded this city had already been pumped dry by then. 10 years later, a tower 300 yards away would fail at something far more basic. The Harmon was supposed to be 49 floors at the front door of the $8.5 billion city center project. It reached 26 and stopped permanently in 2008. An inspector found that reinforcing steel had been installed in the wrong positions, and in some places was missing entirely. This is the single most important thing to understand about a concrete building. Concrete is superb in compression and close to useless in tension, so every bit of tensile strength lives in the rebar. And rebar only works where the engineer put it. Move a bar a few inches and the concrete around it has no more strength than a slab of pavement. The concrete does not look different. 26 floors of finished gray concrete looked exactly like 26 floors that would have held. There is nothing on the outside of a column that tells you the rebar inside it is 3 inches from where it should be. The building that kills you and the building that holds are the same building until the earthquake. Engineers at Weidlinger Associates tested the structure and found misplaced or missing steel in columns, beams, shear walls, and transfer walls everywhere below the 21st floor. Their conclusion was that the defects were too widespread to repair and that the tower could collapse in a code-level earthquake. It could not be imploded either because it was physically joined to a live shopping center. So it was unbuilt. Crews wrapped it in a $1 million tarp to keep it looking like a hotel, then removed it downward, slab by slab, with a tower crane lowering the pieces to the ground for about $11.5 million. The last Vegas tower built on guesswork came down while the next one was being drawn as a 516-foot sphere. The last thing Las Vegas built at this scale is a ball 366 feet tall and 516 feet wide, and it is really 2 buildings wearing each other. Inside is a concrete and steel seating bowl. Around it stands a freestanding steel diagrid made of round, hollow structural sections, 14 horizontal rings tied together by 32 pairs of diagonals, joined at cast steel nodes machined to take members arriving from odd angles. Round tube was chosen because a concrete shell that size would have been too heavy and nearly impossible to form to that curvature. The dome roof spans 440 feet and was assembled on the ground, then raised and positioned with hydraulic jacks to a tolerance of 1/8 of an inch. Its trusses weigh over 13,000 tons, and crews then placed 3,000 tons of rebar and pumped 6,600 cubic yards of concrete on top of it. Waterproofing is spray foam and elastomeric coating rather than sealed steel. Then the skin. A second outer lattice carries 1.2 million LED pucks across 580,000 square feet, roughly 48 diodes per puck, spaced about 9 inches apart, each sealed in black silicone against desert heat. Everyone is replaceable by one hand with a squeeze and a twist, reached from 400 internal catwalks, because with that many parts, failure is not an event, it is a maintenance schedule. Around the base sits a 2-floor concrete collar topped by a compression ring holding the whole sphere in position. About $2.3 billion. Thomas Hull sold the El Rancho within a few years, and it burned to the ground in 1960. Billy Wilkerson was pushed out of the hotel he conceived, and Siegel was shot dead in 1947, months after the rooms finally opened. Steve Wynn left the company he built in 2000. The engineers who found the Harmons rebar were vindicated in court, and MGM paid its contractor $153 million to end the fight. What survives is thin. The Flamingo keeps the name, but its original 3-story hotel was demolished in 1993. El Rancho's corner is an empty festival lot. Vegas Vic still stands on Fremont Street under a canopy, arm frozen. The Bellagio well still feeds the lake, and the artesian water that started all of it ran dry decades ago from overpumping. The meadows are gone. Everything else here gets rebuilt. That does not.
If you want me to keep digging through build records nobody reads, hit subscribe. And tell me in the comments which place I should revisit next or what I should reconstruct next.